Mira knew she had enemies in the company. She just didn't expect one of them to stab her in the back so soon. A meeting gone wrong. The boardroom was tense. Executives sat in their seats, eyes shifting between Mira and the large screen displaying her project. It was a proposal she had worked tirelessly on, a breakthrough strategy that could boost the company's market dominance. The same project given to her by Gu Min. But as the presentation began, her blood ran cold. It wasn't her name on the project. Instead, it read Director Zhang. Myra's fingers clenched into fists. He stole my work. She looked across the table, locking eyes with Director Zhang, a high-ranking executive. He smirked slightly, as if daring her to say something. Gu Min sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Impressive work, Director Zhang. One of the board members praised. Myra's stomach twisted. No. This isn't happening. A dangerous decision. She could stay silent, let this pass, and survive. Or she could speak up and risk everything. Her pulse pounded as she slowly stood. Excuse me, she said, her voice calm but firm. There's been a mistake. All eyes turned to her. Mira took a steady breath. That project was mine. A murmur spread through the room. Director Zhang's smirk didn't fade. Interns shouldn't overstep, he said smoothly. This isn't a school assignment. A few chuckled. Myra's nails dug into her palm. Before she could speak, a sharp voice cut through the room. Enough. The laughter died instantly. Gu Min leaned forward, his dark eyes locked on Director Zhang. Since when do we steal from interns? Silence. Director Zhang's face twitched. CEO Gu, Show me your drafts. Gu Min interrupted. Your revisions. Your research notes. If this is your work, that should be easy. Director Zhang paled. Mira swallowed. She had never seen Gu Min step in for someone before. His gaze flickered to her, just for a second, and something inside her tightened. Then he looked back at the board members. Effective immediately, he announced, Director Zhang is dismissed from this project. And Mira held her breath. You will present the proposal yourself. Gasps filled the room. Myra's heart pounded. She had just made a powerful enemy. Gu Min was a mystery to everyone. A man of power, control, and unshakable coldness. But today, Mira saw something else. Something hidden beneath the mask. It started when she was called to his office. The air inside was heavy, tense. Gu Min stood by the window, his back turned to her. Do you know why you're here? His voice was quieter than usual. Mira folded her arms. If this is about the presentation, Before she could respond, the door burst open. A tall man strode in, his presence immediately demanding attention. He was older, dressed in an expensive suit, with the same sharp features as Gu Min. Mira recognized him instantly. Gu Taehyun, the chairman. Gu Min's father. Father. Gu Min greeted stiffly. Gu Taehyun barely spared Mira a glance. I heard you embarrassed an executive today. Gu Min's jaw tightened. I removed a problem. The chairman scoffed. And for what? An intern? His eyes finally landed on Mira, cold and dismissive. Is she the reason you're getting distracted? Mira stiffened, but before she could speak, Gu Min's voice hardened. That's enough. The air in the room shifted. Mira expected Gu Min to back down. After all, this was his father, the real power behind the company. But he didn't. Instead, for the first time, Mira saw Gu Min not as the CEO, but as a son. One forced to be perfect, to obey, to never show weakness. But right now, he was defying that. And he was doing it for her. After the chairman left, the room was silent. Mira exhaled. I didn't mean to cause trouble for you. Gu Min let out a dry chuckle. Trouble. His eyes met hers, something unreadable in them. Mira, trouble has always been my life. For a second, she saw it. The exhaustion, the burden, the man behind the mask. But just as quickly, the cold CEO returned. This conversation never happened, he said, turning away. Go back to work. Mira hesitated, then nodded. But as she left, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just glimpsed a side of Gu Min no one else had ever seen. And that realization? It was dangerous. Like and subscribe to get notification when I post. Gumin had spent years perfecting his control. Cold, calculated, untouchable. But Mira was destroying all of that. At first, he thought it was a game he could handle, but now he avoided her, ignored her, threw himself into work. None of it worked. Every time she walked into a room, he felt her presence before he even saw her. And now, she was bolder. She spoke confidently in meetings, challenged ideas, and even the executives were beginning to acknowledge her. She didn't shrink away from him anymore. She didn't fear him. Instead, she met his gaze head-on. And that terrified him. The moment, everything shattered. That evening, Gumin stayed late at the office, expecting peace. But when the door swung open and Mira stepped inside, he knew peace was impossible. She walked straight to his desk, placed her hands down, and stared him in the eyes. "I know you want me, sir." His breath caught. "Mira, leave." His voice was sharp, desperate. She took a step closer. "No." His hands curled into fists. "This isn't a game." "Then stop running from me." The tension snapped. Before he knew it, he had pushed back his chair and was standing before her. Too close. His control was slipping fast. "Mira," he warned, but his voice wasn't as firm as before. Her eyes flickered to his lips, and something inside him broke. She had no idea what she was doing to him. Or maybe she did. Maybe that's why she wasn't backing down. He wasn't sure he wanted her to. He needed to leave, and for the first time he left work for home early.